Oh, okay, it's live now. It's live now. Okay. So let me start. Are you ready to join? Are you ready to join? Yes. And you are the only you are the only one. So let's do like a one-on-one talk. So thanks for joining. Welcome to my session. So did you have lunch?
Yes.
Okay, right. And are you sleeping now?
Not yet.
Okay, yeah, not yet. Sounds good. So this session is all about the Power Platform Custom Connector. So let me introduce myself. I'm Justin from Microsoft, not Microsoft Philippines, from Microsoft Korea. As a developer advocate here, and if you use any social media like the Twitter or something like that, then you can follow me. Then you will be able to see a lot of Azure.NET Power Platform stuff. Okay, and this is my GitHub profile, so you can get the source code for you to run on your local machine. And thanks for our sponsors. So, and the fun quick call time. So can you take a QR code for you? So let's. No, we don't need. Actually, you are the only one. Okay. So I will ask a question then. So is your daily job is application development? So are you doing a developing job or doing something else?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Development and sometimes other.
Okay. Right. Good. And did you do any Power Apps application development before?
I did Power Automate.
Power Automate. Okay. So you only did Power Automate side. Okay. So what makes you keeping away from developing Power Apps application then?
Maybe because of the knowledge, I'm not yet very familiar with Power Automate. That's why I'm here.
Okay. So you are more familiar with Power Automate?
No, I also just need to use it. That's why I studied.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. So have you done with any Power Platform custom connector stuff before? Okay, this session is all about that thing. And so if you have done any application, API application development or something like that, then that will be very useful. What about the implementing OAuth authentication?
We use it.
Okay.
I haven't done it.
So your application uses it, but you are not in charge of developing that part. Okay.
Testing.
Okay. So your main job is the testing, application testing, or functional test.
Yes, testing, analysis,
Okay.
design, all of it.
Okay.
Sometimes
Yeah.
development.
Okay. So everything but development.
Yes.
Sounds good. Okay. So I'm going to show you a quick demo first. Then you will be able to see the what the topic of this session is about. Okay. So and this is the YouTube summarizer. So do you like YouTube and watching YouTube? And just tell me that. Usually, in generally speaking, how long does it take in one YouTube video you are watching? Like 1 hour or half an hour or like 15 minutes or something like that?
If it's movie, it's more than an hour.
More than an hour?
If it's just cooking.
Okay.
10 to 25 minutes.
Okay. That's a really good example. So if you are watching like a cooking videos or something like that, and do you watch from the beginning to the end before start cooking, or just skipping it?
I skip.
Skipping it. So if the something actually summarizes the video content itself, and would you watch it?
Yes.
I mean,
it will be easier, faster.
Something like
If I need to cook right away.
Okay.
Faster.
Something like there is the pasta recipe. something like that. Then it has the YouTube video says, oh, it's a half an hour long, and oh, but I only need the what to prepare, what to cook, or something like that. Then this YouTube summarizer application, which is built in Power App, actually does it for you, something like the. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, so I have Power Apps application, and there is the solution in here. And where is it? Okay, this is the summarizer Power Apps application. Something like so. What it does is that, as I said, we take YouTube video URL like this. So we have YouTube video URL like this. And then basically that's that video URL is written. The language spoken in this video is either English or Korean. Then I want to summarize this video into English, Korean, or Filipino, which is Tagalog. So let's try this. I have no idea how to speak the Filipino, but you must be knowing. So let's try this. Okay, so this is the YouTube video, and this is definitely the spoken language is in English. And let's summarize this in Filipino, which is Tagalog. Okay, let's try. Ooh. Then it runs in, and in the backend side. So I sent these three informations to the backend API, and that backend API actually gets the text, the subtitles from the YouTube video. Then the subtitles is sent to the OpenAI service and summarize it in a given language. So if I say, okay, summarize it in English or Korean, the Filipino?
Yes.
Yeah. Does it make sense? Okay. Nice. So
about Azure OpenAI.
Yeah.
In Power Platform.
Okay. So if I choose to use Korean, then yeah, it's also fine. I haven't found the proper YouTube video spoken in Filipino yet, so I couldn't make it. But definitely it works fine. It will work fine because once I set the spoken language is in the Filipino, then it should be fine. So this is the summary, the same content but summarized in Korean, something like that. So this is the application. So you know how now you have some sort of understanding, some level of understanding about how YouTube Summarizer works. Okay, and then in there actually, it's behind is in the Power Automate. Okay, so there is YouTube Summarizer solution here, and there is Cloudflow. Then we have we just run twice, yeah. So October 24th, yeah. So this is the last one that I run, and which is returning in the summary in Korean, something like that. And this is the thing. So Power Apps trigger. So Power Automate workflow is triggered by Power Apps. Then it converts something, and it sends. It gets the YouTube video. Then summarize it, something like that. So this is the API application that I built. So let's think about this. So this is how the backend API works as a functions API, and with this URL and video language and summary language, those informations are sent to the API. Then with this API, YouTube video URL goes into the YouTube. Then extract all the subtitles now. Then that subtitles is sent to the Azure OpenAI service to summarize it, and it returns to the front-end application. Whatever the front-end application is in, and we can use it. And one of the reasons I put the API management in front of our backend API is that, let's imagine this API is located within your company, within your organization. There must be more than one API, right? In that case, the API management is like the kind of orchestrating all your backend API, so that the front-end application or the API, the any consumer using the talks to your backend API only need to know API management, so that so any request comes in to the API management, and it actually make a decision to which the backend API is need to be talked or something like that. So this is how the API gateway or API management works. So I put the Power Apps here, and I intentionally separated the workflow from the Power Apps application, because I want to use Power Apps only for the UI side. So it only takes care of the user input and output stuff. Then all other stuff is the working in the Power Automate. So this is the other thing. But the Power Apps or Power Automate can use hundreds of connectors. Yeah? But think about that. That's my company's API, which is internal resource, only used for my company. Then Power Platform connectors doesn't know these the APIs, right? Because they are only for my company, not for general use. So in that case, in order to use the internal resource directly on Power Platform, then we need to use custom connector. So custom connector is basically a wrapper of your API, which is hosted on your internal network, something like that. So, but let's starting. Let's start the first one. So if your backend API is working perfectly fine. Now, you want to use the same API on the Power Platform using custom connector. Okay, so how can you make sure your API is working as expected within Power Platform?
You test the API first.
Huh?
You test the API.
Yeah, you test the API. So how can you make sure that test passes with custom connector? That's something different, right? Because we know our existing API application works fine, but custom connector is a kind of wrapper. So if we wrap your API, then it's a different story. So maybe in most cases it works fine, but sometimes may work differently, right? So we need to make sure. So it's kind of we need to make sure our peace of mind or something like that. So we need to be able to debug our API application through custom connector. So that's the thing. So in most cases, Power Platform application development requires the custom connectors, right? So because there are hundreds of around 1,000, around 1,000 connectors already out there, but these connectors are for the well-known SaaS applications, not for your internal APIs. So in that case, we need custom connector. But as I said, in terms of how we can integrate our custom connector with our Power Platform, is that the first step is the build our API application first, or we can choose the existing API application. That's the first step. Then integrate that API application with API management, so that API management works as an API gateway, something like that. And then we create a custom connector from there. And this custom connector is used within Power Platform, like Power Apps or Power Automate or Power Virtual Agent whatsoever. Okay, so this is a typical building scenario to create a custom connector and use it within Power Platform. But as I said, how can we make sure this custom connector works perfectly works as expected. So in that case, we need to be able to use the debugging feature or something like that, right? So do you use Visual Studio?
Yes.
Okay, and if you they punch in the F5 key and it runs on the debugging mode, and then you can put the breaking point and see whether this line is hit or not or something like that. This kind of debugging experience, can we expect this kind of debugging experience using custom connector? For now, no, because the custom connector has to be deployed into the Power Platform environment first. Then it's like the testing in production. So you deployed everything in production first. Then it's everyone uses it, not for ourselves, but for the customers as well. And we test it on the production like this. So it's like the changing the wheels on the train, or like remove the obstacles on the railroad while the train is running, right? So do you do testing like that in that way?
No, we test in dev.
Yeah, yeah. You usually test in dev environment or staging environment, not in production, right? But if we want to use custom connector, we have to deploy it into the production first. That's the problem. That's the problem. So, and that's not desirable, right? So how can we make sure? So I want to debug that Power Platform custom connector while developing the API application. That's the thing. We were not able to do so, but now we can. Now we can do it because in May this year at Build conference. So I did a presentation at Build, and the topic was about the debugging the Power Platform custom connector within Visual Studio. So at that time, it was the public preview. Now it turned in July. In July, it is now generally available. So what can we do is that if we use Visual Studio, then in Visual Studio there is the feature called Dev Tunnel. Have you heard of that Dev Tunnel feature? Yeah. Have you used ngrok before? No? So ngrok is kind of the useful tool to test your webhook API. Something like if like if there is an external API wants to call your internal API, then how can they know? So ngrok actually opens the secure tunnel from your local machine to the external API so that they can securely communicate with each other through that tunnel. So that's how ngrok works. Dev tunnel is actually the similar thing, actually exactly the same thing. And if you use Visual Studio Code, then there is a feature called port forwarding. And basically, Dev tunnel and port forwarding are the same thing. Okay, we use the secure Dev tunnel. And these are all built-in feature, right? So we don't have to worry about using the third-party application like ngrok. Why do we do that? So ngrok is it's a good feature. It's actually already the excellent feature. And even the official Microsoft document uses ngrok before. But we have now built-in feature of the Dev tunnel. So why does it matter? What do you think? What do you think it matters for us? Because
More secure.
that's correct. Because the ngrok is a third-party application, and it hosts the Dev tunnel feature, something like that. And it gives us like a custom URL. That means that is hosted on their server. So our application data is staying within our tenant. Then if we want to test it, it has to go to ngrok, which is outside, then has to come in my machine, which is traversing the other way. And we have no idea what they will do with our data. Yeah? Even if they say, oh, it's secure, but from the enterprise perspective, we are not sure, right? That's why we are using, we are kind of reluctant using the Angular feature. So if it is all built-in, then we don't have to worry about, because all built-in means we have to get access through our tenant. That means it is sitting inside our tenant, inside our other subscription. So that's why the dev tunnel feature is important for us. Okay, so I will show you what that means with a small demo. Okay, oops. Okay, so this is my Windows machine, and this is my Visual Studio. Okay, now I put the breakpoint here. Okay, so this is the application. So if I run this application into debug mode or something like this, okay. So if I run this API application in debug mode, then it opens a URL like this. Okay, so this is a Swagger URL. Yeah. So this is the API. So I can do the same thing, like the send the video URL and video language and summary language code here. So this is the backend API, what the backend API does. And can you see the URL here? Localhost and port number 5001. So this is what my local the host. Okay. So which is good. Now let's get back to the Visual Studio here. Now I want to use this API running on my local machine to debug our custom connector, which is on Power Platform side. So how can we do this? So if you open the API and there is called connected service here, then we can add service dependency. Then let's power. Then there is a Power Platform custom connector dependencies. So if I choose this and click on next button, then I need to choose the tenant, right tenant here. And this is the environment of Power Platform, which is tied into my tenant. Then there is the solution files here. So I choose YouTube Summarizer here. Now, there is some custom connector I need to create. So here, what should I call? VSD. So I will create the name, custom connector name of VSDbug. And here, I can choose the Swagger specification. Directly use the project or the file. So I will just use file for now. And here I put the Swagger file, Swagger.web API.aoi, and then there is the feature called dev tunnel. Something required but not created yet. So let's create one dev tunnel. So choose the tenant and name. So aMS debug. Then persistent and access public. Because if I choose to the access level to private, and then anyone outside our network cannot access to it. And Power Platform is living outside our organization, so it has to be public. So I create OK. Now it's done, and click the next button and wait for the finish. Then it will, so something will be happening in here. So it will create Power Platform custom connector directly within Visual Studio. So we don't need to worry about creating custom connector by our hand. So once it's done, then done. Okay, so it's done. So let's click close button here. Now start the debugging again. Now what's happening? see what's happening. Can you see that? So it used to be localhost at the 5001. Now it is saying that we are using dev tunnels, right? So now if the same, exactly the same thing, so click the continue button here, and it exactly the same thing. Only difference is using the public URL. And with this public URL, Power Platform understands where our application is running. Okay, so get back to the here. Now, where is it? Okay, so YouTube Summarizer, and in here, can you see the debug button here? Debug and the custom connector. So that's what we just created. Okay, now if we want to use this debug the thing, so let's go into the cloud. Oh no, not this one. This one, the workflow. Now we can start editing. So this is the existing custom connector. Now we want to add the custom connector that we just created through Visual Studio. So click, choose the custom, and there is the VS Debug custom connector here. Then there is action, summarize. Okay, so and it creates the connection reference here on my behalf and used video URL in video URL. Now, video language code. So this is the video language code, and this is the summary language code. Now, so everything is done, and we don't need the existing connector, so I will delete this one. Now, then here, and the response part here. So we are returning the response from this summarize action. So click the summarize button. Yeah. So everything is done. So I update the Power Platform, Power Automate workflow. So once it's saved, what should I do now? Once it is saved, it needs to be updated within the Power Apps application, right? So the current Power Apps application, Power Apps app has the reference to the previous version of workflow. So we need to let this Power App know that Power Automate workflow has been updated. So let's open this. Okay, so it takes time to open this application, and I think it will be appearing as a read-only because I opened the same application on the other the web browser. So I just simply choose override here, and there is Power Automate tab here, and this is the Power Automate workflow that we are going to use. So we need to refresh it. Then it will update this Power the apps application. Now, once it's done. So let's try run this application again. So use this application, this URL to here, and it is spoken in English, and change it to Filipino, and to summary of this language is Filipino. Then click the summary button, and we are expecting something happens, right? When you click the summary button, and it hits the breakpoint here. So we simply changed the existing Power Platform custom connector to this one, replace with this one, and by doing so, we are now able to debug our custom connector and our API application like this. Okay, so it's done. So it will be displaying the result, summary result in Filipino, something like that. So this is how we can use our the dev tunnel feature for debugging our API application from the Power Platform application, something like that. Okay. So this is done. And okay, so let's finish this one. And as I said, if I want to run the same thing within the Visual Studio, then that's also fine. So if I run this application, so this is the API application as well. So if I click the F5, then it says, okay, debug anyway. So it's running the same thing in here, and I put the breakpoint here, right? And it takes time to run this application because it needs to compile everything first. So once it's done, so what it does is that, so if the application runs and there is the tab called port, here, can you see that? Okay, so so application is up and running. Wait, running. Okay, now application is up and running. Now there is a port. Then I can create a port number. So this API application is as a function. So as a default, it uses 7071 port. Then if I click this, and it creates the port forwarding, which is the same thing as dev tunnel, but as a default, it's private. So we need to change it to public first. And then it says it's going to be dangerous or something like that. That's fine. So I create the copy this application, the URL. Then if I put this URL, then can you see that dev tunnels something? So we use the same thing from the Visual Studio Code as well. Yeah. So we can use that. Now we will be able to see the Swagger UI and the things. API/Swagger UI. And simply we will be able to see the same thing, Swagger UI thing. And one of the drawbacks of using dev tunnel feature within the Visual Studio is that Visual Studio automatically generates Power Platform custom connector within Visual Studio, but Visual Studio Code doesn't. So in that case, we have to manually create the custom connector using the one. That's the only differences, but the thing is the same. So I'm not going to go further now. Yeah. So back to the demo. Now, so how was the demo? Was it kind of an interesting thing? Okay. Now we are going to talk about the authentication experience. So how can we improve our authentication experience while building our application? So, so this is the architecture that I showed you before. So Power Platform application uses custom connector to talk to our backend API. And usually our backend API is this part. And many cases we talk to the third party the API, external APIs like GitHub or something else in that case. So in that case, how can we talk to each other? What should we do in order to talk to each other? We need to add some sort of authentication feature, right? We need to put some so that this external API knows this request is valid, right? So in the case, so in order to use authentication feature, we have two different approaches. The first one is the API key. So think about this. If we want to use the API key, then that API key is sent through the request header or query parameter. So think about it as a functions API. So we use API key through the request header, name as like an X stage function stage key, something like that, or through the query parameter, like the code equals or something. So right. So this is how we use the API key approach. But the problem of using the API key is that if our API key is compromised, then our entire application will be compromised as well. So this is really dangerous. So in order to overcome this kind of the danger, so we the OAuth access token approach is coming up, and this provides us more secure way of the accessing our APIs, but it has also a problem. Not a problem. It's not a problem, but let's think about this: the process of using OAuth access token. So let's think about this. The left-hand side is your API. Right-hand side is external API you want to use. Then first of all, there is in between, there is an identity server, like an Azure Active Directory or the AWS, the IAM or something like that. So my API sending a request to the identity server to get the authorization code. Once I get that, then with this authorization code, I talk to identity server again to get the access token. Right? With this access token, I can now talk to external APIs. Right? This access token. So all I need so these two steps is to get the access token, to talk to external APIs. Right? And this access token expires. So if it is expired, then we need to send another request to the identity server to renew the access token. Then with this renewed access token, we can talk to the external APIs again, something like that. So these 5 steps is a typical thing, typical the workflow of using the OAuth authentication feature. But it's too complicated, right? So all you need to do is that, so all you need is to get the access token. But in order to get the access token, you have to do everything by yourself. You have to implement these the OAuth authentication workflow in your API. So that's too complicated. So there is the demand. There was a demand that if somebody does it for me, then would you buy it?
Maybe.
Yeah, because I think so, because if somebody does all the authentication process on my behalf, and all I need to do is that, okay, give me access token, then either, okay, here's the access token you can use, something like that. So if everything is done on my behalf by somebody within a secure environment, then I think I will use it, right? And by doing so, the amount of code that I need to implement is significantly reduced, and I save the time, and I can spend that time, save the time into the another job, something like that. So, as an API management, actually, they released this new feature in September, so which was a very new thing called authorization. So within the API management, we can see the authorization menu. So what it does is that it does OAuth authentication, all the workflow on my behalf. So all I need is to get the access token to call the external API, something like that. So it made the application development process so simple. So this one. So in order to communicate with the external APIs, we need to implement the authentication feature by ourselves. But with this the API management authorization feature, that doesn't need anymore. So we just call the authorization feature to get the access token, and with this access token to talk to the external API, something like that. So this is how it works. So another demo. Okay, so another demo. I have, oops, where is it? Okay, here we go. So I have another the demo here. So I have API management, yeah, and it has APIs of two things: AOAI as OpenAI and GitHub. So GitHub is to get the access token. This is the endpoint, but it doesn't have the actual code. It only uses policies here. So in here, it says, okay, we need to use the get authorization context policy. And it has provider ID of GitHub and authorization ID of GitHub. So with this information, so it sounds like we need to set up some sort of provider, right, before using this. Then with this provider, and this is the actual code. This is the actual code. So authorization, context variables, blah, blah, blah. And then at the very end, it returns access token. So everything is done within this policy. All we need is to get the access token. I just use the return response, the payload for the access token. But if you use the external APIs directly and put this on the request header, then yeah, it should be fine. So what should I do now is that there is an authorization feature here, and it has GitHub here. Okay, this is a provider ID. So if you want to create a new one, then create the authorization here, and there is some identity. There are a bunch of identity provider. So one is the Active Directory, as Active Directory or GitHub or Google, LinkedIn, whatever, right? And here, if there are list of the authorized identity provider, but if there is nothing you want to use, then just use a generic auth 2.0 provider. So let's use GitHub for now. Now, if I put GitHub aMS, something like that, then yeah, the provider name will be GitHub aMS. Then I put client ID and secret and scope here. Then I can create the create button. So follow this step. Then I create this provider, something like this. So this is the one. That's why we use provider ID of GitHub in these APIs. Okay. Now, so let's try this. So now I'm going to try this API through test here. Then if I click the send button, it should return the access token from the GitHub. Okay. So can you see the see the access token, right? And you know it's time dependent. So like a day after, it will expire. So if I click, if I send the request to this same endpoint again in 1 day after, then the access token will be refreshed. So the current the access token is something like this, but next day probably it might be different, something like that. Okay, so this is how we can use the authorization feature, the built-in authorization feature of API management. So with this, and with this, we can integrate this the access token feature into the Power Platform application. Then this is using the GitHub thing. So the Power Platform can be done like can be exported and imported through Power Platform CLI. So within this, if we set up like a GitHub Actions workflow, something like that, and within the GitHub Actions workflow, we can use the Power Platform CLI to export our existing Power Platform application, and import it into a different environment or something like that. We can run this kind of stuff. That means we can integrate our DevOps and the capability into our Power Platform application development, something like that. So that's the really the good thing. So demo is done. So I have run two different demos. One is for the debugging experience, and the second one was the authentication experience. How was the demo? Was it good for you? Okay. Yeah. So let's do summary. The first one I showed you is that how to improve our debugging experience using the DevTunnel feature. And the second one is how to simplify our authentication experience using the API management. So I would really want you to practice this thing after today using this the GitHub repository. So take this the picture. ms/aMS/YouTube summarizer. That's what I showed you as a demo. So it actually has three different applications. One is the Blazor WebAssembly application. Second one is Power Apps application. And the last one is a Teams app application. So you can use this sample demo for different scenarios. Okay, so take a look. Now, done. Thanks for listening. You are the only audience. So thank you.
Private consulting.
Yeah, private consulting.
Private
Indeed.
Yeah,
Private
yeah.
one. Yeah, private tutoring. Indeed. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Yay.
Pero, isa lang mo na pwede.
So I can go.
Just need to bring on your screen.
Yeah. Where's my browser? Here's my browser. Present. Share screen. Yeah, okay. I don't have a second one. Entire screen. I have nothing. Share audio.
It's up to you. Do you have something to video to play or something like this?
Not really, but
Maybe
well,
so you turn it off. Otherwise, like if something happened, you know, it's gonna make a loop.
ah, good point. The entire screen share. Are we on? Oh, I like this one. Do 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 do. That needs a sound. Oh, good.
Oh, good on my
You can
side.
see.
You can see it and see. I just want to go to YouTube, check it.
Yeah, couple minutes. Yeah. Is it 45 minutes?
Yeah,
45 minutes. Yeah.
45 minutes. But
Plus.
yeah,
Okay,
like this.
brilliant. Let's get started. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. We seems to be acquiring more and more people, which is good. So today we're going to talk about advanced Power Automate. So we wanted to take Power Automate from, when I receive email, create a task. Let's kind of beyond that and take it to the next level, make it, I wouldn't say enterprise. You can run enterprise, but just to the next level, even if it's personal automation. So thanks to all the sponsors. First time we're running it in Manila, so hopefully we will come back next year. And just quickly about me, George Dubinsky. I what's called vintage MVP. I've been running 15 years, I think. I'll provide my details, like if you want to connect, I'll provide my details later on. So the enabler, it's a long story short, we were talking about, if you were a choice of superhero, what would you be? And I opted for, I call that superhero the enabler. I said that superhero can do nothing by himself, like nothing at all, no special skills. But in his presence, other potential superheroes, they show up their skills. Something comes through. So that's what I see, like beyond training, beyond teaching people. I want to see people acquiring new skills and becoming enabled, right? So I see this is what I do. This is what I like doing. This presentation being presented in together, we created it together, this presentation and training. So we do advanced Power Automate training by Amy Holden. She also from Sydney, Australia, as I am. She can't be here. I couldn't be in Europe at Nordic Summit. She presented that at Nordic Summit. She couldn't be here, so I'm presenting on behalf of us both. This is her details. But you can connect to either one of us, and we'll put you in touch with the other one. So anyway, before we go ahead and go through the agenda, who's here using Power Automate? Okay. Who's here using Logic Apps? No takers? Yeah, I know, Justin. You do use. Okay. Who's here uses anything else for automation, Zapier or any other automation tools? Yeah? What do you use?
Automation Anywhere.
Okay. Oh, yes, that's right. Automation Anywhere. So this is good. And who would say they are developer? No developers. Good. That I don't want to talk about development stuff. I grew up from development environment, so to speak, but more I learned, the less I want to do development. Plus, there is a team of people. Remember, it's all about enablement. So there are developers who do their stuff much faster and much better than I do. So I tend to kind of say, guys, here's what you need to do. Please do it. You do it much better. So why would I even try? So we'll go through some essentials of some Power Automate gymnastics. We call it gymnastics because sometimes Power Automate, with all this power, it requires bending backwards. So you need to be flexible when you work with Power Automate. The task at hand we'll have is manipulating Excel. It's a real life problem. I'll talk about it later on, and we'll talk about solving it and using all those little tricks and techniques that I talk about initially. And then we'll see something else, something again from real life that popped up literally last week, a very interesting technique that I didn't know before. And so I'm a developer, and Amy, who's my partner in crime, she's non-developer. She calls herself ABC, anything but code. She taught me a few things. So it's not always from developer to non-developer to a maker. It goes other way as well. And then if we have time, we'll go Dataverse, GBU, good, bad, ugly. Who uses Dataverse here? No. Okay. Then perhaps we'll leave it because that's really heavy duty. This is for Dataverse people. We have a section specifically talking about how to deal with all those little things that Dataverse has to offer. Anyway, so let's go through essentials. So we're saying, if you take somebody else's code, and copy it, it doesn't count as coded. So you still make it. It's fine. I like doing it. So the story goes, you see there's 4 people contributed to that. So we had a discussion, we got together with other MVPs, and someone said, look, am I the only one who's got this, notepad on the side or sticky note on the side with all those silly expressions that you use in Power Automate, like calculating number of days between 2 dates, It's an expression. You convert it to ticks, and then you divide it by 864, and it's like 7 zeros or something like that. I can't remember. And turns out, like, oh no, turns out not the only one. So that's my version of this sticky note. I'm kind of developer, so I use Visual Studio Code. Other people use literally Notepad or sticky notes. So I have all sort of things. I have, okay, this is how you grab first word with colon separated list. I don't know where I used it. So this is how you filter around an ID. This is Dutch specific. This is from marketing. So this is a smorgasbord of all the expressions that I use every now and then. And people said, yeah, we do that too. So we got together and we put together a reference guide, gymnastics reference guide, which is basically all those expressions, mostly commonly used expressions, we put it together. So I do run this site here on Tip of the Day, and on pages you'll find Power Automate Gymnastics Reference Guide. If you search, you'll find it, like literally Power Automate Gymnastics Reference Guide. I'll show you URL. So if you and it's recorded, so that's the URL. So this is if you want to make a photo, yep, go ahead. Okay. So, and you just copy paste into your Power Automate. So this is one of the most powerful techniques. Like if you learn the expression, no matter how complex it is, just put it aside. If it's useful to you, the only thing is remember to use notes. When you use an expression, put some notes in, either this expression or at least a couple of words, what does it do? Because you'll come back to it 5 days later and you won't be able to identify. The other one, who uses Windows V to paste stuff? Yes, I see. Good, good. So at least a couple hands. So the difference is you copy as usual, and Windows V gives you this goodness, right? So it gives you, this is my developer clipboard. It's GitHub Ignore. So it's, let me clear it, clear this keyboard. Hold on a sec. And someone else lost mouse. Now I lost mouse. Jesus. Oh no, mouse is back. Okay, so let me clear it. And you see, you can even pin items. You can pin, so you can actually grab the items, and I'll use a couple of these. This is the date I was talking about. You see div, ticks, end date, start date, and 9 zeros, not even 7. So we'll get back to that. So this is very, very useful. And of course, you can insert emojis and even GIFs, which is kind of important. Okay, where's my slide deck? Slide deck gone. Let me restart it. So approach that I use is very, very simple. I don't have any tricks. I don't have any magic. You read blogs, read articles, you watch YouTube, you learn. You go to learn.microsoft.com, you try exercises, you learn. Then you play with it. You play and experiment. There's nothing, well, I shouldn't be saying that. I was going to say nothing you can do to kind of damage. Yeah, you can do a lot of damage, but just if you're playing in your own environment, there's nothing really, you'll see when there is something you shouldn't be doing. Right, there's nothing critical that you can do. If your environment, if your admin set up an environment properly, you should be able to do whatever you want. If you happen to delete a corporate Active Directory, well, shame on system administrator. That's their problem, not yours. And docs, read documentation. For example, you go and search Power Automate function reference, and it takes you to this long URL. That's a first hit, guaranteed. This is a list of all the functions that are available to you in Power Automate. Read it. I wouldn't say memorize it. Play with it. And I'll show you a couple of things that you can do with that list. So now that we've gone through basic principles, error handling, we're not going to spend too much time on it. There's plenty of online resources about the topic. I'll show you a couple of things, but effectively, if you're playing with flow, use terminate and then delete it when no longer needed. So use terminate to terminate branch. If you split in your flow and this branch no longer needed, terminate it. You can terminate with success, you can terminate with error, whatever you want. Error handling, configure run after. I'm surprised how many people don't know that, how to deal with that. It's effectively try, catch, block. If you developer or if you studied ever and you still remember this stuff from university, that would be from your education. That would be your try, catch, block. So you catch the error, and I'll show you very kind of effective technique to do that. Use scope. If you've got like 50 actions and you don't really need to know which one failed. You do this, and say whatever. Any of these fail, it's all the same to me, not important. You can grab it and use scope, and scope will fail as the entire unit. So you can catch it outside the scope and be done with it. And it's also using scope is very convenient for modularizing your flow. Because on the screen, when it's presented and it's wide and it's, if you put stuff into containers that do some units of work, it's tidy and easy to organize. I'll show you later coalesce. Coalesce basically dealing with the, instead of going, if empty, something empty, then put default value, otherwise put that value. Using functions, you can do it in line as a single expression. So don't be afraid to use functions. That's why I'm saying you can collapse all the monstrosity of nested ifs and so on by using functions. And parallel branches are your best friend. Even if you don't do error handling, just parallel branches, do stuff that you can do, independent stuff doing parallel branches. So there are a couple of questions people popped up. What are the ways to monitor and report Power Automate? Well, there are a few ways. As admin, you do have access to Power Automate API. You use that. As non-admin, within the flow itself, you do error handling, and then I'll show you a technique how to bubble up a little bit more information about what happened. And the other one is saying, I'm working within the company, and we're using Power Automate, we use logic apps, we use web services, we use this, we use custom connectors. What do we use? And we use Power Apps. And what do we use? My answer would be App Insights. App Insights is the answer because it gives you a coherent view what's happening, who's calling who in the pipeline. If you call in, first of all, it's now in preview, Power Automate and App Insights integration in preview, but you can actually call App Insights from inside of Power Automate as your own step. So when you do so, you'll give yourself a much better view of what's going on. You call Power App Insights, you write information into App Insights, say from your Power App. Would it be Canvas or model driven? Doesn't matter. And then you call Flow, and Flow calls App Insights. This will show up in App Insights pipeline. So that will give you a much better view of what's going on. Anyway, we'll go to those techniques. Let's go to Puppeteer of Excel, which is basically a real-life problem. Let me just get to that. And the problem is my client, a real one, they are farmers. Oh, sorry, they're not farmers. They traded with farmers. They grain traders. So they deal with farmers. So they have magic spreadsheet, and this is real one. So this magic spreadsheet has a lot of information, lots of tabs down the bottom. Those tabs, they kind of know how. They've got spreads, they've got futures, they've got some magic. Result of this magic is this price list. So this table, you see on the screen. So it's got like a program trading, the different trading program, and then the season, And the track is basically where the grain is going, or the track is passes through. There's like fixed locations around the country. And then what is the grain, what is the grade, and price. And number of rows in this table could be between 5 to 10,000, depending on season, on conditions, what's not. Where in season are you? Season just started, it will be not a lot, and then pick up. Anyway, so roughly 5 to 8, 10,000. And what I want is this information. Farmers need to know that information, so they need to send it. So of course they don't want to send this magic spreadsheet. So they say, George, we need to automate this process where we send to thousands of farmers who send this as a price sheet, right? And it's dynamic, so they send change on monthly basis, if not weekly. I don't remember, initially weekly, and then anyway, on demand. Let's put it this way: when price changes, price changes. So let's start automation. So my usual approach was, let's go, and I'll be diligent. I'll go into solution, and I'll start my automation. So I'll shorten a few things. So first of all, I want to do an automated flow. Come on. I'll skip that, so I'll add my own trigger. So first of all, I need to create an output file. And that will be an Excel file. I need to create an Excel file. Sounds easy. Well, SharePoint? Yeah, I could use SharePoint connector, but I use OneDrive. It's a temporary thing, temporary exercise. OneDrive for business, sorry, not personal, one for business. So it's a temporary exercise. I get this file, I grab it, I provide it as a download, done. So I don't need to keep this file. So I'll just generate using OneDrive for business. But what I'm creating now is a flow that I will use in multiple places. So I'll create a child flow. And as a child flow, you can use either this one, so manually trigger a flow. It allows you to pass parameters, or you can use Power Apps and use Power Apps v2 and call it from Power Apps. But under the hood, either one of those actually uses HTTP. Why I like HTTP trigger? So I'll do a request. Request, this one. When a HTTP request is received, one of the reasons is that you can now call it not only from inside Flow or Power Automate or Power Apps, you can call it from anywhere. It's HTTP. The other reason is it's something new. And something new is this dropdown. You can actually now secure an endpoint and give access to anyone, public, as it used to be, or just your tenant or specific users. So you can create, for example, a HTTP endpoint that is available only to administrators or specific user group, right? This is quite flexible. This is not something Power Apps, for example, trigger would give you out of the box. You would still need to share, so it's kind of equivalent functionality, not quite the same, but the other flexibility of that one is I have very finite control about what do I return back. So response, where's my request? Here we go. So this response is HTTP response. So it gives me a very fine control over what do I send back. For example, if my child flow searches for a contact, which is a real life like scenario, search for a contact and create contact if not found by email, for example, right? What I want to return is something semantically valid, like 404, not found. I can't do it with Power Apps or Power Automate child flow. I need this one allows me this response, this explicit response allows me a semantic response saying 404 or 500, some problems and so on. So which makes error handling on the caller side much easier. But let's get down to the business. So what I want to do is I'm requesting JSON schema. Okay, so what I want to pass is, okay, it's going to be OneDrive, right? So with OneDrive, I want to have, I'll say a file name. Okay, so I'll just go for a file name as parameter. So my parameter is going to be something like, that's what it will look like, file name. It doesn't matter what I'm putting in. I'm just asking it to parse. So this is my input. That's fine. So that gives me access to the parameters. Now, the one thing is technique to use. On a single parameter that may be not important, I immediately go into recommendations. If you can use compose, use compose. Do not use variables. Compose is much lighter. You can use compose inside the loop. Variables inside the loop, all they're going to give you is trouble. Microsoft just recently, they sorted out the concurrency problem. Like if you do add to a variable inside the loop, until recently, you'd get like random result. Because when you use multiple threads, when you do concurrency more than one, it's chaos. Now it actually gives you the right result. But what happens is it's locking the thread. So access to the variable, it slows you down. You're not taking advantage of all the multi-threading. So here, use compose. If you're using compose, it's localized expression, it's fast, it's very lightweight, and you're not going to go into concurrency problems. And so one thing, when I pass parameters, in this case, file name, it's not a big deal, it's just one parameter. But imagine if you pass a record ID and you retrieve the record as a, and then you deal with it. The recommendation is the first step in a flow is to take whatever trigger provides you and create a copy or get the record. If its first step is get the record, get it. Why? Because then you can replace trigger for something else without breaking the rest of your flow. Your reference is one thing, one step removed. Right? So I can change the trigger. If I started with, say, manual trigger and I change my mind, all I do here, as I said, it's file name. Here we go. All I'm doing here is I'm changing it and yes, rename, file name. Don't ever use spaces in the name, in the step names. Just asking for trouble. Because if you want to refer to see and refer quickly, don't use any spaces. So file name, fine. I'll create a file name and then, oh, before we do so, oh, what just happened? Oh, I completely forgot. I wanted to take my first installment of this flow. Let's save this one. It's untitled. We'll rename it in a second. All I want to do is to save it. So we'll be exporting the records. Come on. So we'll be generate temp file. Let's save again. What I want to do, I want to show you the first variant of the flow that I wrote. And we're doing the beta version of it. So that was the first installment. So the first installment was we create a file, a temporary file, and I use UTC now as a file name. So it just creates a random timestamp file name. Then I'll go create a worksheet inside the file. So I'm using OneDrive connector now. I'm using Excel connector. I create the file called prices. And then I create a table called prices. And I use like those program, season, track, commodity, bin, rate, price, all the properties. And then I was playing, you see, I was telling you about using terminate. I was playing around and I was using terminate as a step. So it's like, yeah, okay. Plain, I can delete this one. I can delete this one. The other useful technique, if you never used it, is if you want to bypass some heavy operation, you can always say static results. If it has no implication on the other one, it basically turns your operation into do nothing, succeed, or fail with specific code. So I can say this operation, it's static, and I can fail, which gives me ability to test my error handling, for example. So I'm not going to do that. So get rows. So what it does now, it gets rows from the table. From the master, it's got table 1. Everything is like hard-coded. And then I say, well, nothing better than go ahead and go through, cycle through rows and just keep adding them into the, that's not going to be table 2. That's going to be what I created prices, right? So table was prices table. And prices table. And yes, I know that. Okay, you know what? I'll leave it as it is. This was original. Everything was kind of hard-coded like this. I created a table and what's not. So let's go ahead and run it. So master client will be my output. I didn't even generate the spreadsheet. I just went ahead and just fixed one. I even added prefix ZZ, meaning like I don't want to see you anymore. So what it does, it creates a spreadsheet. Let's get it started. It starts, it creates worksheets, create table, find get rows. I don't know, it will take some time. We'll come back to it later. So anyway, let's go back to our the original one. So we started creating generate temp file name. Okay, let's continue with this one. And whilst this one is running, I do have something useful. So I do have this create file and so on. So I can start copy paste. You guys using copy paste? Yeah? I'll show you quite cool stuff that you can do. You do know that you can, I just copied it, right? You do know that you can paste it. And this is what's inside. And you can edit that and paste it back. And I'll show you when you want to do that. It's actually quite cool. Like create file operation name, that's going to be the same. OneDrive for business. I'm looking for something I can fiddle with. UTC now. No, really don't want to touch anything on that one. It's this one is tricky. So here I want to do. Yep. So file name is file name, and here I just want to add action. My clipboard. Create a file name. And yep, UTC now. I really should be using file name parameters. So let's change that to a file name parameter. Just drop a file name. And this is the file content. One thing I learned, maybe they fixed it. It's, you know, you learn something and say, yeah, you always do that. Maybe they fixed it, maybe they didn't. But I noticed that if I leave it blank completely, then Excel file is basically corrupted. So if I put the blank in, it works. Go figure. I'm now using it all the time. So, and then we'll create a worksheet. Copy that. Copy that. Quickly create a worksheet. Check. Yep. And then basically we'll add action here. Create a table. Copy that. And so now I can respond that everything is okay. So file is created, file prepared, we're good to go. I'm kind of simplifying it a little bit. Real life is a little bit more complicated, has more details and error handling. So for example, if my create file failed, what I want to do is something like, let's do the error handling. So what I want to do is add a parallel branch. And here, I'm using compose as a magic kind of placeholder. But here, what I really want is to send the email to administrator. So I'll call these steps, rename email the administrator. So on this email administrator, what I want to do is to tell administrators or myself that failed, right? Where exactly what's failed. What I also want to do here is to put the URL to workflow information. So let me just walk through. So Power Automate environments. Workflow is one of those functions that you find in the reference, and it's super useful. It gives you access to JSON schema of the entire flow, running flow. So this workflow has tags called environment name. Okay, so we pick the environment. Then we have flow name. We pick the flow. And then we have run name. And we have the run. So this entire URL will give you an inline reference in your email. So you go straight to run. You don't have to hunt around. If you've got like 100 runs, 100 failed runs, this will give you exactly what failed. You go straight in. And of course, what you need to do is to configure run after. So you go and configure run after, and you say when it failed or timed out, then that, and then you probably want to do, without merging back to the branch, what you want to do is probably terminate here. Oh, here. You want terminate. This is how you use terminate, just safely into terminate. Yes, that one. Success. And there's only one thing to remember, that terminate, you want to configure run. Actually, you want to stop this branch at any time, regardless what email. If email failed, you're not interested in dealing with that, so just deal with that. So we just created kind of flow that creates a file. Now we can go ahead and call it from our main flow that would generate this file. So now file is generated. What we're gonna put into it? The magic is, if you ever, who knows Microsoft Graph? Okay, I know you do. So Microsoft Graph is a magic place. Microsoft Graph gives you access to so many things, it's hard to even enumerate them. So if I go to Graph Explorer, again, you go and search Graph Explorer, and I sign in, look at what I have here. So you've got applications, you've got access to compliance, to your browser. Oh, Excel, we'll come back to that. So to groups, to identity and access, so to Entra ID information, to insights, to Microsoft Teams, to tons of information that is available to you, to Outlook, to group email in Outlook that you don't have access otherwise, to SharePoint lists. So you've got very low level access to everything. So Excel, so, oh, that's interesting. We can actually do stuff with Excel and Graph, and it's documented and it's available. So without further ado, so I'm saying, okay, let's see how a friend is doing in running the exercise. Oh, it's running. So it's retrieved the rows, the original creator, row by row, retrieve the rows in 43 seconds. For some reason, it's yellow. I think it's a UI glitch. Oh, retry. It's even retried. Maybe lock occurred or something like this. So it tried twice. Anyway, so it did retrieve, and it goes through records. Let's see how it's doing. So master client was the one. It's going. Let's go to the end. And we just watch it. 275. Well, oh, it's inserted 10. Remember that we have like 6,000 to go. This is how fast this one is. So we'll leave it at that. Well, let's go back. So let me just jump straight into the flow that actually does the trick. So I'm just in the interest of saving time and talking about some other things. So that was my this one is an interesting one. It probably will say go away, but let's see if it, yeah, it's, so in US region, and it's rolling out. For those of you, I saw hands with the Logic Apps. The Logic Apps, new Logic Apps editor, it's coming to Flow. So if you go and you edit this one, that should go with new designer just fine. You got this nice and pretty, you probably already saw it, nice and pretty designer. Okay, so beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, but you get all the settings on the left-hand side, so it's easy to manipulate. Code view, make it your best friend, because this is where you search, this is what you copy. If something goes wrong, you can find information there. Same goes for output and input of each flow in the run. You have full access with the actions. If you go actions, bracket, name of the action, remember, don't use spaces so you can type without bothering yourself with underscores. Actions has full list of things that you can access, inputs, outputs, everything that you need to know at runtime. Okay, I don't want to go this one, so let's go and modify the one, this one. Okay, so what I want to do here, I don't want HTTP request, I want to change. And remember I said, isolate your trigger from the rest of the flow. That allows you to do this. I want to change to manual. I don't have to, but I just because I can. And I no longer need response. I'll leave it at that. But remember, so we have a file name. So let's add action, and we call a file name. So we'll call flow child flows run a child flow and generate temp file. And it understands the schema, so it's asking for a file name. And here we go, and we'll go UTC now. Really don't care that it's timestamp in UTC. It's fine as long as it's unique. And then we'll go X LSX, extension of Excel. And we'll rename that to a temp file. And the one thing that we needed to do, and I didn't do it, is, of course, from the child flow, where's the create file? Generate temp file. We needed to return, no, we do have file name, what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. So editing my flow, I do know the file name, that's my file name. I'll probably move it to some kind of compose. Here, add an action. Again, compose your best friend. That's gonna be our file name. And then I put here in temp file, put the file name. And then what happens then is I call, oh, and I need to, this is from master. So I'm reading from master. So let me just walk you through. I'm calling Graph API. I'm using HTTP connector, HTTP with Azure ID connector. And I'm just start creating new connection. Let's say connection references, add new connection references. So here, your URL is going to be https graph.microsoft.com. Same here, and that will give me connection to Graph as myself. It will authenticate, and all the users will have to go and get their own connection, so there is no kind of permission violation. But if it's a child flow, then you can elevate permissions by administrator running and users just reusing the connection. So I don't want to create here. I already have the connection. So I'm connecting to, this is a root of my drive, personal. Master is my master spreadsheet. So it's column / file name column. That's a reference to a file name. And then we go workbook, worksheets, ESR, that's a tab. It's the name of a tab of a worksheet. And then I'll go range, columns G to L. And this is a very useful app. Used range, it's all documented, so I'm just walking through what it means. So used range, it says until the first blank. So I don't have to know how many rows. If it's 5, it's 5. It's 10,000, it's 10,000. And now I'm saying return values only. It returns, the beauty of this is it returns formulas. It returns formats. So it really returns what Excel stores under the hood. So you can do all sorts of manipulations, magic manipulations. I'm just shrinking return data. I'm saying, give me the address. So G1 to L, whatever number of rows is. Give me row count, just because I can, and values. That's all I'm interested in. And once I get that, what I want to do is to patch rows, write them back to, okay, the file name, we do need to change the file name. So let me remove that and replace it with, I'm sorry, this is not what I wanted, return with that. So let me now walk you through what I'm doing next. What I'm doing next is I'm patching that back, and just we get into the running bit of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm putting into sheet 1 of the worksheet, no tables, nothing. I don't need to create any tables, nothing like that. And I'm putting, just for interest of brevity, because we're slightly out of time, I'll just put that back, the file name. I'm not going to generate temp file name, but you'll get the idea. So I'm putting that range. And the only thing that is tricky is this bit. Come on, show me what it is. Okay. You don't want to show what it is. it's a length of the values. Come on, give it to me. So get rows, just values, just the full range. And I'm putting values as is. No manipulation, nothing. Just read the entire bit and plonk it back, right? So let's go ahead. As I said, let me quickly, yeah, I'll leave this one in, but just for the sake, master, that's what do I have available? Master client 2. Have it available? Just in case. Yeah, I have master client 2 kind of ready to go. And I'll just put semicolon master client 2 Excel S6 done. Let's go ahead and test this one. Come on. You can do it. So whilst this, what was that? Oh. So what it's doing is just grabbing this graph manipulation, just grabbing the entire range and just plonks it into, come on, because it's on strike. Let me, whilst it's doing that, it didn't even start yet. So we'll come back to that in a second. What I wanted to do is to show you some other stuff that is possible with graph, just quickly. So what I have is the file on OneDrive, which lists calendar, public holidays in Australia. It's for 3 years ahead. You can do as many. You can include company outings, company holidays, specific country holidays, what's not. But what I do in my Power Automate flow, I call, again, using graph, I get the range. I get Australian holidays. It's a skip, useful function, skip the first one, which is names of the columns. And then function is called network days. So what you can do with graph, you can call a function called network days. And between start and end date, so if I run this one, hopefully it's going to comply and prompt. So I'm just prompting from now until 31st of December. Give me the number of working days. And it calls Excel to calculate that. And Excel has a function that will take into account all the public holidays. Day to get busy, 48 days left until 31st. It takes into account Christmas. So it's kind of using Excel function. You'd be surprised, like hundreds of Excel functions, most of them have no use. It's surprising, like they statistical functions, but you can use, if you use statistics, then could be quite useful. This one is on strike, so let me just go ahead. It's safe. Let me just again run it again. Oh, now it's decided to. Come on. The one thing you want, and it's common, is versioning, right? So, oh, please, seriously? Let me just remove the temp the steps. I think it's choking on figuring out which child flow to call. So that's the original one. So I'll save it just like that and try to run it. Come on, don't let me down. So we'll test that manually. Run. The other flow did run successfully, so I'm not sure what's going on with that one. Oh, finally. So now it should, I think it was synchronizing with the child flow, trying to make sense within the solution. One of the things within Dataverse solutions is if Microsoft is installing their solution, you're doomed. And sometimes they do it during the day. And this is US instance, so it will be during the night. So they're just doing something in the instance and just trying. And we're kind of done. Input output, that's going to be lots and lots of JSON, as one would expect. And you see it's a number of formats. You see the output, it's like, I'm not going to list that as thousands of rows. So the point is within 10 seconds, we got to generate the entire file. Oh, wrong key. Sorry, keyboard. So there will be 6,000 rows or something like that. Yeah, 5,800. 10 seconds, done. So this is what manipulation of Excel allows you through graph allows you. Graph, it's kind of got some other powers. Lots of manipulation of content. The other one will go for, if you're interested, for 2.5 hours, give or take. So safe. The last bit that I wanted to kind of briefly mention, I'll mention it, what you can do with copy-paste, is my task was to copy records. Client deleted one of the records, and we wanted to copy across from the backup. So we restored the backup, essential record, copied across. So I said, I'll write Power Automate to do it. Field by field. It's nice when you have 5 fields. This table turns out to have like 150 or 170 fields. I was literally watching a movie, and you drag and drop, you wait 10 seconds until it digests, then it digests, then you tap to the next one, wait another 20 seconds, and the process rinse, repeat, and 150 times. And then I called Amy and said, that's what I've been doing. And she said, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be doing it at all, because when you're doing a record copy, and I'm using small table as a sample, when you're doing a record copy, what you can do is, come on. So this is my duplicate. One of the ways, I'm reading course information. So one of the ways to do it is to add action, and this is what I've been doing. So Microsoft Dataverse, doesn't matter, SharePoint, Dataverse, it's all the same, right? So, so here, CPD courses, these are training courses. And that would give me multiple fields. And these fields, I would say, okay, I read the course and it's a name of the course. Next field, points, and imagine each operation 30 seconds. It's a nightmare. What you can do is you can grab, pick code. You can grab that. So I'm reading parameters. I'm not even interested. I'm grabbing that as parameters. And the same trick can be applied to SharePoint as well. So I'm kind of, and then I go to my Visual Studio, and I'm pasting that. Yes, it's JSON. And then I can put literally copy paste and say, yeah, like this. Not quite like this. This is the actual input. This is what I need to turn it into. But it's a copy paste exercise. I can use regular expressions. Like if you know what you're doing within the editor, that's so much faster. By the way, this is the real file. You see the real file? This is the size of it. I'm scrolling. This is on the right-hand side. This is the size of the file, right? So it's an insane number of columns. But you can use copy-paste. I'm sorry, copy-paste. Then what you can do is grab that, and you go, and turns out, you see, it gives me like a nice UI with all this. But if I table name, if I say the custom value of a table name is actually a table name plus space. What it can't do, it cannot derive schema, it cannot read metadata. So it says, I don't know what you're gonna put in there. So I'm just going and copy paste the entire thing, what I just copied from the editor. And it happy duplicate. So it saved I would have saved if I knew that you can do it. And this is how kind of Advanced Maker taught me something I didn't know. You can copy paste these things like no tomorrow. Including you can copy this operation as I showed to you. You can copy this operation and paste it like I can do the entire, sorry, not pick code. I can do copy to my clipboard, go to this one, paste this, format it a little bit. What can I do? Lab year, let's say I want to have fixed one, just to demonstrate like 1995 for no other reason. Select that, copy, go back, say now I want a new step, add action, my clipboard. And here's, I'm pasting, it's double name, the first one will be the one I'm after. Ooh, type identifier. That's really interesting. Oh, I'm sorry, that's me being silly. Table name. Let me fix that. So concat lab CPD values. I think it's chopped on double quotes. Red note. He is 1995. So I can copy paste and it actually works, right? So don't be afraid to experiment with copy and pasting, substituting your values and so forth. So with the graph and Excel, one thing, read documentation, not everything is implemented. So play with it, try it. Performance gains are tremendous. So about this copy paste stuff, JSON is JSON. Everything is JSON in Power Automate. So learn JSON. There are good courses out there how to deal with it and experiment, and it saves you a lot of time. And last thing, remember, even if you are not developer, it doesn't count as code if you copy paste, which is mostly what I did, the entire thing. I didn't write any code. Okay, this is how you connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you very much. We're just a little bit over time, but hopefully it was worth it. So thank you. If who's next? Who's presenting next? Oh, he stepped out. But in the meantime, any questions should.
Next one is course.
Yes, I know. He stepped out. Do I need to disconnect or just drop it?
And just drop it.
Just drop it? Okay, bye everyone.
All right, I'll start the session.
Yeah, we can go.
Okay. So hi guys, I'm Paul Suleiman. This is gonna be fast because I know the Manila traffic, so you can go home. So I'm based in Manila. So I'm the CEO and CTO of Active Collab. I'm also working as a Microsoft partner here in the Philippines. So I'm a Microsoft MVP and regional director as well. So MVP for business applications. So who are you here are using Power Pages already? More advanced. Of course, the MVPs are always exploring. Yeah, but so there are some, of course, announcement that it's gonna be huge. It's gonna be a lot of integration, but we cannot announce that. It's still on our research and development, right? But now I'll present Power Pages to give you a super easy and super basic understanding about it. That it's not really, if you know WordPress, you know Power Pages. All right. So that's what I want to present to you today. Okay. Okay. So thanks to our sponsor. All right. So just to give you a bit of a background, content management system. So a content management system or CMS is a software that helps users to create, manage, and modify content on a website. So in a way, since the beginning of CMS, it is meant to be for end user or business user, right? Meaning if you're the end user, you should be able to navigate and manage your content, right? Without any coding, by just changing font, by just changing image, you can already do that, right? So there's a lot of, in a way, citizen development-ish content management in the market ever since, right? Since the 90s, since the 2000s. So we have WordPress, we have Joomla, we have Drupal, etc. And when we're exploring Power Apps in 2016, so we can't imagine what's going to be the front end of Power Apps if you want to cater to our external users, right? So Dynamics 365, of course, is the business application suite of Microsoft, but you have to be in the CRM before you can have a completely content management system for external users, right? So those dilemma are like, in the industry, like, how can we let's say, for example, a non-CRM application created on Power Apps, how do you want to license it on the external users, right? So these are the questions that are burning before they democratize Power Pages. All right, I'll give you a brief of a history later on. So without a word without the CMS, it's very hard. So it's gonna be repetitive for developers just for them to update the content. And in a simple terms, let's say for example, just to update a paragraph. So of course they don't if they edit the code, it's gonna be harder for them to do that. It will be a slower update, meaning by just replacing a logo of a website or replacing themes and colors, it's going to be hard for the developers to always do that because that's not what they pay for, right? They pay for. And of course, there's going to be an impact to customer experience. So this is the word without CMS or content management system. Um, it's super simple, but it has a big impact, especially if your website is client facing, right? Especially if it serves your, maybe a menu on a restaurant, a public restaurant that, wants to do pre-orders, etc. Those are the dilemma if you don't have content management system. And it's going to be very hard for us to, to really like, launch something without a CMS. So let's talk about Power Pages. In a brief explanation, Pages, all right, creates secure, low-code business websites, right? It's not anymore website, we call it web application now because at the end of the day, in Web 2, we can do like, we can participate on a specific web. So there's three kinds of web, the Web 1, the Web 2, and the Web 3. Web 1 is more informational like Yahoo before, SF, MSN News, etc. In Web 2, where Facebook, Google, YouTube, the participatory web, where you can already upload contents and videos. The Web 3 is more of my passion today, which is blockchain enabled, internet, which you can now own your data, right, without having a centralized piece. Now let's go back to Web 2. Again, without a content management system, it's hard for us to be able to go to market with our current, web application. The good thing also about Power Pages, it's a Power Platform front end, if I want to coin that way. Actually, one of my teammates, JM here, will demo such like a super advanced and like we don't have a choice but use Power Pages for that instance. But we're gonna show it to you later. And of course, it's fast, secured, and enterprise. So this one I can demo in like under 10 minutes that you can already create your own Power Pages. Power Page. It's secured because it can be integrated to Active Directory, to to Facebook. So those SSO, those single sign-on or OAuth, etc. Power Pages is equipped with that, and of course, it's enterprise in a way. It's connected to the Dataverse. So meaning it's not only a content management website, like you need to buy plugins like WordPress for you to be able to have a database or in fact use MySQL. Power Pages is completely integrated with an enterprise system, which is Dynamics 365 and Dataverse. I will explain that to you later. Okay, so the evolution. So this one, again, as I mentioned, in the CRM world before Dynamics, right? So there is what we call the CRM portal. In fact, this is the mother of Power Page or Power Pages before. Then when Microsoft got rebranded, like I think it was around 2015 to 2016, they're still using the old school portal for CRM. Now, when Power Platform evolved already, we have the Power Apps, etc. Power Apps with space. Before Power Apps is one word, right? When it became Power Apps with a space, so technically that's also where Power Platform was coined in, where you have your Power BI, Power Automate, etc. Right now, because of that change, I think it was in 2018, 2019, there was a preview. I'm not just exact about the date. Power Apps portal is already available. But that evolution is really a fork or still anchored on the CRM portal, right? Um, where you can customize CRM portal using the old school solution and customizer of the old school CRM. Now, Power Pages is of course the Power Apps portal now. It was preview, I think, last year. So I was able to also have a webinar that Power Page is still in the preview. So there is an architecture shift. It's not anymore your old school Power Apps portal. I'll show you later why. And of course, it's not a rebranding, but a complete product in a way, right? Because Microsoft is always doing that, right? To these products that we know. Of course, we have the Power Automate. Then before it was Flow, right? Then it became Power Automate. Then now we have Cloud Flow, and we have the desktop flows, etc. So Microsoft always do that for us to be able to, in a way, to have a clarity to the product that we're using. Right? Okay. So again, as promised, this is going to be faster because this is the last session. So I want you to understand that provisioning. How can I go to this? Okay, there. So I'll stop sharing first. Oh, there. I'm here. I'll reshare it again. Okay. So as I mentioned, it's gonna be faster for you to be able to, like, to see how Power Page is being created. So I don't have yet the Copilot because my instance is here in the Philippines, in Asia. So if you have your fake US instance, so we do that here because we're always late for the updates. So if you have that fake US instance, then you can see other, the Copilot power ups already. So I'll go to Power Page. To be exact, Power Pages has also the same Copilot. So meaning you can also create your own Power Pages with the Copilot instance. But of course, I don't have it because my instance is in Asia. All right. So there are like ways to like just create something in Power. So in Power Pages. So I created an aMS a while ago, just this morning, just for me to have a backup because sometimes if you refresh your browser, everything will be gone. So that's that's how browser does it. So I'll start with a template with a super simple demo. So again, what I'm currently in a way, the context of the demo is, for example, you really want to use Power Platform, all right, and not use any third-party application, not even from scratch web application, maybe a JavaScript or a .NET, an ASP.NET website, etc. But you want to really start right from the within the Power Platform ecosystem, meaning you're not going to integrate something within the Power Platform ecosystem. I want to create my business website. That's the context that we want to do today. All right, so I'll start with the template. So as Microsoft, always promoting, there are predefined template even in Power Apps, right? If you create Power Apps, let's say for example they're promoting now the HR templates inside Power Apps, so you don't need to create application from scratch, but it depends on the use case. So there are a lot of starter templates already before. It's super few, and in fact before there's no template like this. No, there are like super simple template, but not like this. So we have what's the meaning of D365 template? So technically, Dynamics 365 has its own template. For example, for customer service, we have the knowledge base, the ticketing, etc. So those are Dynamics 365 template. But I'm gonna start from the starter layout so I can show you how easy it is. So this one is in a way my favorite starter layout because it's easy to edit. So in WordPress, there are templates like this, right? Who uses WordPress here? Who tried WordPress already? Okay. So that's our favorite blogging site. So in a way, the experience in WordPress, the first thing that you need to do is go to the themes, then pick any themes that you want if you're starting to blog, right? Unless you're a developer already, you have your own template to be imported to your WordPress. But starting in WordPress, it's like this in a nutshell, that you can create your own or choose your own template to use. Let's say I want to choose this. All right. So the first thing to do is to, of course, give your name a site. Let's say aMS Philippines Manila, aMS Philippines 2023. And of course, the extension or the subdomain for Power Apps Portal. You can also, if you don't have yet a domain, you can use this for you to be able to easily browse your existing web application. Let's say aMS PH 2023. All right, then done. Okay, so it will take around 5 minutes for me to be able to create this. Oh, it's fast now. All right, there you go. So it's fast now because I have a good internet. I use their Wi-Fi. A while ago, I'm using my mobile data. It took well, technically it's in the server of Microsoft. It's fast, but for me to be able to load the site, it took me 10 minutes because I'm using mobile data. But now it's faster. You see this already. But let's wait for a while for it to be ready. Okay. Um, Before, if you use Power Apps Portal, the interface is not like this. All right, you need to go to the Power Portal admin. Then you will see there the Power Apps portal. Then if who uses who created model driven apps here? Model driven apps. Of course, the gen, the MVPs. So technically, model driven apps. If you're familiar with it, that's in a way that's how you create Power Apps portal. It has a similarity, right? Now it's super different, no? From again, Microsoft is saying this is not a rebranding. This is a new architecture from our product perspective. So if you will do this, you just need to edit the theme or the template that I created. So I'm going to just show you super simple demo like putting forms, like editing pages, etc. All right. So this is my demo. So this is my template already. I'm using a template already. And for this, for example, this is just an informational site that I want to get feedback from the audience, right? For you to be able to have a feedback on my talk, right? Of course, I can do that in Microsoft Forms, right? But I want to create a full-blown site for me to be able to do that. So I'll go to the company name. Again, the WYSIWYG or the what you see is what you get. Drag and drop, whatever you want to call that. Low code, no code kind of like, editing a site is here. Everything is here from from what you see is what you get and doing citizen development, attack in terms of programming. So let's say, for example, I want to name this as aMS PH 2023. Then, upload a site logo or image. So I have, I think, already created something. So, sorry. There you go. Okay. I want to point this out, right? If you go to other CMS, like let's say, for example, WordPress, etc., they don't offer a stock image unless you install a plugin that offers stock images, right? Where do you see stock image? What Microsoft application? PowerPoint, right? Currently, Word PowerPoint has stock image already, right? And of course, I heard that it will have an integration to DALI for creating images as well for OpenAI. But if you go to stock image, you can already pick whatever you can pick in the PowerPoint, right? So see, it's becoming a super easy content management, especially if you're just creating a website. Every images is here already. You don't need to really even find or go to pixels to for you to be able to to have one. And then of course the alternative text when it hover the logo, I will not change that. You can edit code also in VS Code. I'll show that later. And for styling, you might want to to pick a brand color. I'm gonna pick black. Sorry. Okay. And the site the the font, etc. I'll do that later. All right. So after this one, so as you can see, it changed already. So this is a AMSPH. Then for example, for this one, I want to say please give us feedback. All right. This button, uh, I would no longer need this. Okay. I'll delete this one. All right. Okay. So here, as you can see, it's like a in a nutshell, it's like Elementor if you're familiar with that in WordPress. So some sort of you can later on drag and drop components here, right? But what I want to do, I'll skip this one and go back to my edited one so we would not waste our time. Okay, I'll still use that, but I want to edit this one for time's sake. Okay, because it will load if I edit everything. So I prepared already something like a super simple form for you. Okay. So this is a form, all right, that I pre-created already, right? In Microsoft Power Pages. Again, if you're familiar with WordPress, you can add components like this, right? And this is like a pre-created form that I did. Uh, so what it does is it gets your full name and location. I just need to show you what happened when I click preview. Okay, right. So that's the form that I created. All right, so I can already type anything here and say Makati City. Okay, and then of course this is like a predefined captcha, but I don't know why it doesn't work in the internet. Okay, let me just pause my VPN for 5 minutes. The page. Okay, oh, there we go. So this is the end result if you create a form here. So again, CAPTCHA is already built in and submit there. So the form that I created is connected to my Dataverse. Right? I just created a table a while ago before I start the session. So how did I do that? So going back to my, to my newly created site. Okay. There. Okay. I just added form. Okay. And then it says here, like, for this one again, not yet available. This is Copilot or Bing. Sorry, this is Copilot. So I'll start a new form. So see here, it's you're being asked to choose a table. So the default is you're gonna choose a Dataverse table. So I pre-created the table already. Of course, you know how to create a Dataverse table. No. That's very easy, but I can show it to you later. But you don't need to go to the model driven app, to the Dataverse itself, for you to be able to create one, because inside Power Page can already do that. All right, but I pre-created one already for time's sake. So remember, when you're creating a model driven apps, or when you create a table in the Dataverse, it will automatically create a form, right? The quick form, the information form, etc. It's gonna be the default form that this will be picking up. All right. But if you want to create your own form, right, you can do that in the model driven app editor. You can do it and just, like, plug it inside the Power Page. So you will not do a double work. All right. Whatever forms you created in Dataverse, it can be, like, be pasted. All right, so for this one, I have the information form, and of course, the selected form, it's here. Then, oops, sorry. Anyway, so it's the same. So I just have two fields, the full name and the location. Now, um, for newly created form, you will be asked for the permission. This is very important for you to understand. That's why I'm saying it's super secure. Why? Because innately, all right, the security setup that you have in Dataverse, global, like even per user setup, etc., will be inherited by Power Pages. You have a choice to inherit that or not, or you can create your own new permission. Okay, so this is information. When I say global access, it will be showing everything here, right? When I say contact access, it's associated in the signed in contact, account access, self access, etc. So we can, have a discussion about that, in another topic. But basically, I will use the global access. And there's a permissions here to do read, update, append, delete. It's familiar, right? If you're into permissions in Dataverse or even in the Dynamics 365 CRM, right? It's the same setup, right? For business unit, for orgs, etc. So inherited, whatever. Again, um, from the CRM portal to Power Apps portal, Microsoft did not change at least the structure for the permissions. So okay, there. Okay, so let's say I do update, read, but it doesn't matter because I'm just getting data, right? And of course save. I'm sorry. So okay, so this is very important to understand. So in Power Pages, there are two important licenses. We have the anonymous users and authenticated users. All right. What are the anonymous users? This one, they don't need to sign in. So when this form permission is to global and everyone can access it, that's the time the anonymous user can do that. I think in they selling that per pack. I have a deck here for the license and authenticated users. These are like your Active Directory users, right? So Paul, are there any difference between the Power Apps user license and also the authenticated? Yes. All right. If I am a user of Power Apps, meaning I have the license, which can be the user license and per app license, so I can already access this without the authenticated users. Yes, that's very important if you're facing your client. Now, what if they don't really have a Power Apps license, meaning internal Power Apps license? Then that's the time you will use authenticated users, especially if you're creating a web application that you want them to update and you want to see the audit trail, right? Meaning if you want them to have a record in the Dataverse, etc., manage their access, you need an authenticated user for that. Okay, and that can be bought per pack, which I can discuss later. So I will say first it's anonymous. Then I will save this there. So technically, this one I can already publish this and ask someone to fill that out. Again, without 30 minutes of discussion, I created already a website connected to my Dataverse. Of course, there are some, more advanced way of doing this, but the reason why I picked this topic is because I want to share that Power Pages is here already. It's live. You just need to use it because this is not yet a super adapted app inside the Power Platform. They thought that this is a Power Apps portal still. They don't use this. They don't understand the licensing, etc. So that's why some other companies here in the Philippines is still creating an outside website or web app and just integrating via API if they want to integrate that into their Dataverse or other database, right? So this is if you want to, form capturing or data capturing device that you don't want to expose, of course, your Power Platform or Power Apps internal access, then this is the best product that you can use. Okay. You can edit this via Visual Studio. This one is also some sort of new architecture that was put in here before. There's no edit in VS directly, right? But currently it's very efficient now to edit this in Visual Studio. There. So the same HTML and CSS that you can consume in your normal web application or CMS like WordPress. It's also here. You can also manipulate it via code. And I'll let JM do that. I'm practicing him to speak in front of people. So I have our senior developer to discuss some sort of more advanced way on using Bootstrap, if you're familiar with Bootstrap, inside Power Pages. I think JM you can set up already. This is gonna be quick, guys, because I want you to go home already. Dito ka na.
Oh.
Dito. Nasa taas.
Okay. Hello. I'm John Michael Akebiab, senior web developer in Hacktiv company.
The reason why I also want him to have a glimpse of that, so you can see how pro devs and citizen dev can collaborate on a specific project.
So okay, let's go start. Here in the home section, we see that there's an HTML, the JavaScript, and the CSS component of this. So here we can make a code like in a traditional way of coding. So in this way, we can customize each of our wanted components to be like or to be was to be to create. Okay. So here so ito yung existing yung
Meron ka bang pre-created?
wala sir eh. Check ko lang muna. So ito yung so like I said, let's try to change the header of this home page in the form that Sir Paul demos us. So
CSS.
what is this? So after saving that, let's try to sync it.
Did you control S?
Yes, sir. Okay, so here, the header here, like, please input your feedback has now changed. And please input your details here. So just like the low code situation, you can also
Edit your text.
yes edit your text here, and in a traditional way, you can also edit your text through the Visual Studio Code. So, okay. So we're going to the CSS part on how we integrate the Bootstrap 5 here in the Power Pages. So let's see. In this, okay, let us save here. So I need to overwrite what changes.
Refresh. Refresh na lang the whole page. Hindi mo pa pala. I-refresh mo yung buong page. Ah. So it would.
Hindi pa nagsising dito sa
Like the same. Anyway, sige. Proceed to the bootstrap.
Okay. So the Power Pages is also integrated now in Bootstrap 5. So lately, the Power Pages is also integrated in a lower version of Bootstrap 3. So now in the Bootstrap 5, we can also make some stylish way of traditional coding here in Visual Studio Code for our Power Pages. Okay, let's try to add some class here. So for here, I want to put some color in my text. So color text. Okay, I think I just need to sync these here.
Maka-block ng Google. These are in the Microsoft Office.
Mag-check lang kasi ng Bootstrap. Pwede kaya yan, sir?
Yeah, just search na. Hindi mo dinefine yung color.
Okay. Yung check lang natin. Okay. So here, the code in the class name I use is text primary, which is colored is blue. This type of class used in our Bootstrap to change its color. So here in the Power Pages of Visual Studio Code, using a Bootstrap code in your CSS, which actually working here. So, let's try to other thing like
It's okay.
it's okay.
Yeah, okay. Pakita mo na lang yung
Yep.
EVM.
Okay, sir.
So we will show you a sample of like completely customized. I have an access there. So we will show you a completely customized Power Pages. So you will see also that it doesn't cater alone to some of the basic function, but it can go really further.
Ano ba sir? Meron ko
Meron ng Power Pages.
So yung
Dun sa ano may nakita ko.
sir, ito po.
Sa list sa Power Pages po ito.
Ito sir.
Then Power Pages.
Ito sir.
Alright. So this specific site, the reason why the UI sucks because it was made from Power Builder, right? So this is a super old school system of our government, and the reason why they need to change it's because it doesn't work anymore on the modern browser like Edge or Internet Explorer. So now the thesis here is for us to be able to at least copy it since they don't believe that Power Pages can do that and Power Apps. So we copied a 15 years old system. We replicated a 15 years old system inside Power Pages. 20 years old system inside Power Pages. Well, that's the thesis. Of course, we want to enhance the UI, etc. But for them to be able to have a buyout or to buy licenses and really prove that Power Pages can suffice to what they're currently having right now. So we managed to to deliver this application. So you can see there's a lot of pages already that was created. And again, as JM mentioned, we're just using Bootstrap to mimic some of those controls. But there's no special libraries that was imported, etc. So everything is really native to Power Pages. I think we're good, JM. All right. So yeah, one last thing before I end my session is go back to sorry. Okay. Okay, is the licensing. So very important. So this is selling by pack. So if we're trying to do anonymous user per website, it's $70, $75 for 500 users per site per month. All right. When I say per site, diba you saw the list of the site. So those are sites, right? So you pay for $75 for 500 anonymous user per site. All right. Again, this is not the Power Apps user, like the users and per app users and the per user license. It's not those kind of license. It's not governed by Power Pages, meaning they have an unlimited access to Power Pages in every site. Did you get can you imagine the picture? All right. And we have the $200, which is for 100 users per site per month. This is an authenticated user. which again, if you want to have an audit trail and you want a full integration with Dataverse for this specific user, then this is the plan that you need to use. Yeah, so me to wrap this up, Pages, it's more than a CMS. It can do end-to-end systems. We just need to explore it. Again, we managed to deliver a full-blown system using Power Pages that has a lot of page without any existing or without any libraries, right? That we're using. We just use the normal bootstrap, then that's it. We mimic everything. Thanks to the help also of the built-in security layer of Dataverse, because we don't need to really dwell into into doing MVC, etc. It's there already. Okay, I think that ends my session. So thank you guys for listening.